The Philippines is currently not open to tourists, but as things are progressing, it does look more and more realistic that the tropical paradise should open its borders to international tourists very soon. I think some really positive improvements happened in the Southeast Asia region, including the Philippines has announced that if you're coming from abroad and are fully vaccinated, you no longer need to quarantine upon arrival. And what we have really seen happening in the Philippines recently are, just small incremental improvements towards opening up the country, not necessarily to tourists, but to their own people, to make sure that they can come back in and not have to quarantine. This is a definite improvement. It's not at the point where a lot of you would get excited. However, I want to point out where I think things will go over the next months so you can set clear expectations. I know it's not like we can predict this 100%. However, I think this is where we're heading. Now, look at this. So if you take a look at flight tickets, for instance, flight tickets have become extremely expensive. Not just if you want to fly to Southeast Asia, but in general, if you take a look, you want to take a flight from the Dominican Republic into Mexico, it's roughly $500 for a one-way ticket. Like, these prices are just unheard of. Taking a look at the Philippines, the Philippine Airlines has filed for bankruptcy protection in the United States, encouraging shareholders to contribute money so the airline can stay alive. For incoming flights, only I think about 3,000 people are allowed to enter Manila at this point in time, and 3,000 people is not a lot, okay? That's just 90,000 people a month and a bit over 1 million people a year, but typically a lot more people fly into the Philippines than just 1 million people a year, right? So we have to understand where this is going. With vaccination rate not being overly high at the moment, and it seems like it will take at least another 3 to 6 months for the Philippines to get to the 70% vaccination target that not only the Philippines has in mind, but also a lot of other countries do, right? With the Philippines reducing flights this much, you're flying into the Philippines right now, expect to pay a lot for your flight ticket. If you want to get a direct flight from Los Angeles to Manila, expect to pay $1,500. And I've seen a lot of people complain about this. Things will not change until the government says, hey, you know what? International tourists can come back to the Philippines. We're issuing tourist visas again, and more flights can operate. I do think there's more demand than flights are happening right now, but the country is just not at a point where the government is willing to open up to you guys. We are seeing the caps increasing though, okay? They're going, okay, we're letting in 3,000 people, and possibly next month they'll double that figure. And maybe in December, 10,000 people are allowed to come in. And then January on, 20,000, it's this incremental process, this incremental improvement that we're seeing, which is the goal. It will lead you towards you coming back into the Philippines with obviously vaccination proof and hopefully no PCR test and no quarantine required, because that's what you guys want so bad, correct? Taking a look at the national situation in the Philippines, if you want to travel between provinces, you're welcome to do so. You're fully vaccinated, no need to quarantine, and this is changing for the better as well. The Philippines is testing at a national level right now. The thing is that really the whole country has been hit pretty bad by the pandemic. All jobs are tied to this. It's not just the airline industry, it's not just hotels, resorts, and taxi drivers and massage therapists and managers and booking offices. No, it's everyone. Like, all the little guys, they are tied to this industry. It's indirectly and in some cases directly related. And as long as tourists are not allowed to come back to the Philippines, I think these sectors and pretty much all Filipinos will suffer, some more than others. And people are really looking forward to the point when the Philippines opens its borders again. Taking a closer look at how Southeast Asian countries have progressed over the past months, we can see a definite pattern. With Thailand opening up in a really awkward manner, changing things by the day, changing back, making new statements, not really creating a lot of confidence in the eyes of tourists looking to come to Thailand. However, we kind of see the same happening in other places like Vietnam. Vietnam announced, we'll open up the island of Phu Quoc, and it was scheduled to happen this month. Now it's been delayed until December, when the country expects to open up a lot more of their top tourist destinations, provinces, and we don't know for certainty if those things will happen. And the reason why I'm pointing out these other countries is because I do think that the Philippines is following a very similar structure, and this is nothing innovative that the Philippines is doing, right? The Philippines is just pretty much putting the same system in place that Thailand followed. It's just that the Philippines is lagging behind many months. What you can expect over the next 3 to 6 months is, like I said, probably within 3 to 6 months, you will see a rise. You will see much higher vaccination rates than we are currently witnessing in the Philippines. And if and when we reach, I think, a minimum of 65 to 70%, we can be a lot more confident that the government will open up. And what the requirements will be at this time greatly depends on the COVID situation in the Philippines. It really depends on which vaccines are being distributed, because as you know, some work a lot better against variants than others. There's a lot of question marks at this point, and it's pretty much impossible to say precisely how long it will take. So I want to give you like a little bit of a rough estimate here. My rough estimate is 3 to 6 months. I do think that the government is really looking into opening things up sooner rather than later, because usually governments wait for this, until they have reached a much higher vaccination rate. However, considering how long it's been taking and how little money people are making, and many people are starving to death, it is definitely time to open up, regardless of the fact that people are not vaccinated. I mean, some people are, but not all of them. And people need to make money, and you can only make money if they work, and if they work, they can eat. Those of you who have a long-term visa for the Philippines, you can go to the Philippines right now without quarantining, assuming you are vaccinated. If you're not vaccinated, you do need a quarantine, and I do believe you also need a negative PCR test. Whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated doesn't matter, but things are improving. They're cutting down on the process, right? They're reducing the number of steps involved, and I think that is a positive improvement, but we're not at that level yet. However, I want you to be positive. I really want you to see the bigger picture, that the country is moving in the right direction, even if it's not at the speed that we wished for, but it is happening. When do you think the Philippines will open its borders to international tourists? Do you plan on going back to the Philippines, and are you committed to complying to all the regulatory standards necessary in order for you to enter? Leave a comment below and let us know. Make sure to subscribe and turn on alerts to never miss any of my future videos on travel updates, visas, and digital nomad locations. Before I let you go, I got 2 recommendations for you. 1, I shot a video on the best countries for single guys. These are great locations if you are looking for casual dating, or if you're looking to get married to younger women. You definitely don't want to miss out on this video, so just click on the link that appears right here. 2, I shot another video on open countries. These are places that you can visit without needing to comply with any entry requirements. This is gold. If you want to watch this video, click right here. Thank you for watching.